on and say, first of all, say hi in the group, see how all you guys are doing. But also I wanted to talk about what to send to email list. I've had this question a couple of times lately, and I thought it would be a good topic to cover in a quick video. So if you don't have an email list as part of your business yet, it's definitely something you want to get onto as quickly as you can. Email lists are a really important part of any business these days. It's a way for you to be able to get in direct contact with your people and to grow an audience, like an email list based audience, not just on social media, means that you have control of that list. When we grow followings on social media, we're never fully in control of that. If Facebook decide to cancel our account or Instagram shut us down, we don't necessarily have a lot of control over that. We're playing in their sandbox at the end of the day. So growing an email list is a really, really important part of business. And also it's just a really effective marketing tool. Like the vast majority of the sales and the clients and customers that I get in my business have always come through email. So it's a really, really, obviously a really, really great thing to have. But we're not going to talk too much about kind of starting an email list. I'm happy to do a video if anyone would find that useful, definitely. But I wanted to talk a little bit about what to send people once they're on your list, because sometimes it's like we concentrate on getting people onto the list, and we kind of forget about the nurturing and the sales kind of side of that as well. So I just wanted to rattle through a few ideas if you ever get stuck in terms of what to email them. So the first thing I would say is that remember that it's okay to actually ask for the sale and to talk about what it is that you're offering. Sometimes I think we get so afraid that we're going to come across as like is doing too many, as being too salesy, is talking about our offers too much. But we've got to remember that like the sole purpose, or not the sole purpose really, of everything that we do in our business ultimately is about generating income. Even if it's not the primary thing, somewhere down the line, the point of everything that we're doing is to generate income in our business, or else we don't have a business, basically. And asking, talking about what it is that you have to offer, inviting people to take the next step with you, sharing any programs or packages or anything like that, doing that I think is really, really important. And obviously that's a big part of having an email list. So don't be afraid to share that and to share it often. I think obviously people don't want to feel like they're being spammed, or they're getting like repetitive emails. And I'll talk about how often to email in a second. But just don't be afraid to actually, talk about what it is that you do. Because often, if people have signed up, they're probably going to be really, really interested in what it is that you have to offer. So don't be afraid to talk about that and to offer those things. So that would be the first one to think about is to email people about what it is that you actually have to offer, and to do sales emails. There is a bit of an art, I think, into doing sales emails well. And again, that's probably another topic I could actually talk about at length, because it's something I really enjoy writing sales emails, and I think that, like I said, I think it's doing it in a way that people don't feel like it's just kind of been too spammy, I think is really, really interesting and helpful. So definitely happy to talk about that if anyone will find that helpful. But first tip is to do sales emails. Second one is to basically share the other really good content that you're creating. So the key thing about an email list, I think, is that people want to have a reason, or you want to give people a good reason to open those emails, basically. People, whether or not they think this consciously or not, or thinking, what's in it for me at the end of the day? How is this going to help me? How is this going to interest me? How is this going to inspire me? So sharing the content that you've already created, perhaps in other places, so any blog posts, any podcasts that you might have done, anything like that. So I'm just looking at the baby monitor because she's asleep. We've just got a new video baby monitor. This is where I'm like, please stay asleep while I've got 10 minutes to do a live video. But I think she's settled now. So sharing the other content that you're creating in other places is obviously a great thing to do with your newsletter. And I also think kind of connected to that is that sometimes I think it's really nice to give people who are on your list like something a bit extra. And sometimes I'll create an email which is almost like a mini blog post, or like a mini list of tips or suggestions or advice or something like that. So you can almost think of your newsletter as a mini blog post in itself. And often I've seen lots and lots of emails like that I really enjoy reading, which is my other tip actually, is that I'm guessing most of us are signed up to lots of different email lists. Think about which ones do you actually look forward to reading and why. Now, what some people would say is, we are not our clients, and we don't automatically want to assume that, our potential clients are going to like the same things as us. But I actually kind of think there's nothing wrong with thinking about, well, if this is something that I really enjoy, reading, and that I will always open this person's emails. Asking yourself, why will you always open that person's emails? What is it about those emails that they send that makes you think, oh yes, I'm going to open that one? Is it because they always deliver something of value and interest in every single email? Is it because you like them personally? This is another tip as well, is that, there's no harm in, talking a little bit about you and what you're up to and your personal stuff. Some people, I've noticed in some of the emails that I get, some people completely veer away from that. So I follow these two guys called Andrew and Pete, and most of their emails that come out, which are non-sales, are quite formulaic. Basically they're sharing their latest YouTube video. That's their main thing that they do in terms of their content. They share a YouTube video, and and it's quite formulaic. But every week, more or less the same time, you'll get an email from them. It'll be the latest video, and it's usually really, really good. But they don't generally talk very much about them personally. And that works well for them. Whereas I get other emails from a woman called Sarah Jenks, who I've really enjoyed following her for quite a few years. And she often talks about stuff that she's got going on personally, and you feel like you kind of know who she is. And I kind of look forward to hearing more about what she's up to in her life. And often she'll share some really, really good tips and some just things to kind of get you thinking. And I really enjoy her emails too. So it's kind of thinking about what it is that you enjoy and what do you think is going to work for your brand. So for example, with Sarah's brand, she is very much all around, she's a little bit woo, there's a bit of spirituality there. It's all about kind of, women kind of being empowered. And for me, it kind of works well with her brand that she kind of has these slightly longer, like free flow written emails, whereas Andrew and Pete, they have like these snappy kind of snazzy videos. It's very youthful the way that they do it, and their form of email works really, really well for them. That they're straight in there, giving the value and straight out, and that works well for them and their brand. It reflects quite well on that. So think a little bit about how what you're sharing might kind of relate to your brand, and kind of the way that you tend to show up in other places as well, so that it feels consistent. So if you tend to do, if your main platform is Instagram, and the posts that you put on Instagram tend to be, smash it out with little tips, or they tend to be, images with like longer captions where you're talking about topics in a little bit more detail, then that's going to think about how that kind of relates to your email list as well, and whether or not if that's something you want to pull into your email list too. Other thing that you can share sometimes is links, so that it doesn't always have to be your own content that you share. There's some emails that I really enjoy getting, and often they'll have like the part of their layout is that they have like a few links to things that they've enjoyed lately. And sometimes that can work really, really well, just sharing some links to things that you've read lately. You could even craft a full email around, another article that you've seen somewhere, and talking about why that's kind of relevant to your audience and to the niche that you're emailing them around as well. So that can be helpful too. Sometimes you can revisit old blog posts. So if there's a blog post that you've done a while ago, and perhaps there's a reason that that's kind of come up again. So for example, if it was me, and I had a question from someone about, how, do your website well, or how to optimize your website, I would probably share an old blog post that I've already done around that topic. And I could share that in a newsletter as well. So you can share some of your old content too. And I'm trying to think of some other things. Another thing that you can share is case studies or testimonials. So if you've got clients who you've been working with, you can share obviously their testimonials, but if you've got a bit of a case study, sometimes that really brings to life the kind of work that you do by doing a case study. Likewise, telling a bit of a story. So this is something that I quite enjoy doing in some of my emails, especially when it comes to sales, actually, is telling stories. And part of my Nail Your Niche program, that kind of course that I talk about what your brand stories might be, and these are basically stories that your audience will see reflected in their own life. So sometimes telling those kind of stories in an email can be really, really effective too. Another thing to think about is just kind of the layout of email. So what I tend to see is that people will have either like a kind of just almost like a written blog post kind of style email where it's just an email, and other people have more kind of formatted newsletters with a set kind of layout. I don't think there's any right or wrong on that, really. I think sometimes it depends on which platform you're using. So MailChimp tends to work really, really well with those kind of layouts, because it has the functionality to do that and to be really design led. Whereas ConvertKit, which is what I use, although they are bringing in some new stuff around how to design your emails, it's much better, to just have these kind of free flowing ones. And again, the style of that is going to depend on you and your business, and I think part of your brand as well. What kind of feels good in terms of that, and what kind of relates to your brand as to how you do it. Sometimes I think those layout kind of style ones can make writing emails easier, because what that tends to do is it gives you like something that you repeat each week, so that you fill in the slots almost. If you have a layout where you have like latest blog post, links, like a roundup of links, a little bit about what you're up to, like perhaps like a little sales pitch for like your latest product or program or something, it becomes quite formulaic and you can easily kind of redo that. But also, if that doesn't work for people, they're going to get turned off pretty quick, because they're going to know what to expect. So there's pros and cons to both of those things. Finally, a quick note on how often to email. There's absolutely no right and wrong answer to this. I follow a great woman called Elizabeth Goddard. She I think she probably emails a bit more often now, but I can remember what she used to do was only email if she had something really, really helpful or useful to share. She wasn't into kind of emailing like just for the sake of it, which I can totally see the benefit of. But at the same time, if you're not kind of in people's world very regularly, are they going to forget about you? I don't know. That kind of depends on the way your business is set up. For me personally, I tend to email out at least every 2 weeks. I don't want to go too much less than that, because if I do a launch, I will email out a lot more regularly. And I think that's quite a big jump to go from, let's say, emailing out like once a month, or even once every 2 months, to suddenly emailing quite a lot. I think that's quite a big jump for people to take. So I tend to try and email out every 2 weeks. I don't do it any more often than that, because certainly right now, I used to email out every week, but certainly right now, I don't have the time to do that in my business and do it well. And this is something that I'm really passionate about with businesses anyway. If you know me, you'll know that I'm all about doing stuff that actually doing stuff well and doing it effectively, and not spending ages on stuff, because most of us don't have an unlimited amount of time. Certainly if you're a mum like me, like I say, I'm doing this video while I've got my little boy's upstairs playing Lego, my husband's on a call for his work because he's working from home, and my little girl, my baby girl, is asleep at the moment, and I'm watching her on the video. So I don't have a lot of time to do things, so I want to do things effectively. And this is a good example of that, because I really like to do video. It's nice and quick and easy, but it's also really effective, and I really enjoy it, which is another one of my top tips, is to do what you enjoy. So with emails, I think it's important to consider that as well, in terms of how much time you've got. And as well, I think it's important to see your email list as part of an overall strategy within your business. Like, what role does your email list play? How does it relate to all the other content that you're creating? What's its purpose? How are you going to use that in terms of like your sales and things like that? And obviously there's a whole other thing that we could talk about in terms of what to do when people first get onto your email list, because that's a whole other thing in itself as well, about how you welcome people onto your email list too. So hopefully that's given you some ideas if you ever get stuck about what to email. Hopefully, you've got loads of ideas now to go away with and start to email your list. Because often what I see with new coaches is they set up the email list, the kind of, they're starting to get people on it, and then they just don't know what to send, and they might not send anything because they've only got like 10 people on the list. I would really encourage you, even if you've got 1 or 2 or 10, 20, 50, however, is to make sure that you start emailing, because honestly, the easier it gets, the more that you get into a routine. So even if you think there's no point in emailing 10 people, I'd maybe challenge you to try and actually email those people, because you never know, and it gets you into the habit of actually creating those emails too. So if you've got any questions on this topic, you can just pop me a comment in the box, but I'd love to hear from you. Do you have an email list? How many people have you got on it? Do you ever struggle for email ideas? And also, what's your favourite kind of email to read? Which kind of emails do you always want to open? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.